If you're an entrepreneur and your business is not yet registered, if you're looking to grow your registered business, or you're an accomplished professional. Our Elevate program supports you with access to finance, access to markets, access to capacity building. Sign up now or refer a friend at ecobank.com/elevate. Elevate by EcoBank. A better way, a better Africa.
Sant yàlla.
looy xaar utal Wave nga scan nga fay nag doo ci yokku dara.
Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Monday, the 27th of July, 2026. Coffee time with Peter Gomez, hosting Saikou Sawo, leader of the Golden Era Party. His first interview with us since the split with the PPP, an arrangement under which he was flag bearer for the PPP. You are itching to talk about the voter register omissions. What specific omissions or inconsistencies have you identified in the register?
Yes, actually UDP did most of the work, and they invited us to that press conference. And the reason why Nene and I thought we were compelled to go is to have a free and fair elections, we have to make sure every voter is registered, because it defeats the whole purpose. So, and if you look at 2016, I believe Jammeh was defeated by less than 18,000 votes, or maybe either 20 or 18,000.
And he was asking for what? Was it 13 or 30,000 votes that nobody knew where?
Yes,
where they were.
Yes, exactly.
But, just to allow you to continue with
yes,
your
exactly. So
thoughts track.
Yeah, so if UDP did their homework, they reviewed the flash drive, they had a flash drive, and then they identified, because there were duplicates. But my issue stemmed from, if you look at, the IEC came back and said, hey, yes, 3,000 were omitted, but it was a glitch. And then UDP said, hey, it just wasn't the first day. This pattern continued over several days. So we need more time.
And what did the IEC say when UDP said it was not just a one-off?
Yeah, I'm not sure what their response was, but the reason why we went to that press conference is because we needed more time, so that way people can file their appeal, get everything together. So Nene and I thought, hey, I even participated. Nene did the same. She went to Banjul to get registered. Who knows? Maybe she's not even on the list. So then 15,000 people.
You're scaring everybody this morning.
No, but 15,000 people is a lot. Anybody could be a victim of that, right?
I hope I'm not.
Yeah, so I was like, hey, we need to find...
I take my voting responsibilities seriously.
Yes, exactly. And, the whole point of coalition, people coming together, campaigning, putting our finance, resources, and effort, it shouldn't go in vain. We need to make sure the elections are completely free and fair. So it was a concern for me. And another reason why I felt like PPP, I feel like there's an underlying issue they're not being sincere to us about, is they wrote me an advisory letter, of why I attended the the UDP conference. Oh. And I felt like it was a national issue, people are getting impacted here. So why yes, we have a pending alliance in place. That's a separate subject matter. This press conference...
Did Madike know that you were going to this UDP press conference?
No, but we never had to take permission from him.
No, but don't you feel that because of the alliance, you owed him at least the courtesy of saying, well, UDP are giving this press conference. They are armed with this software, which we don't have. We could go there and learn something, just to give them a heads up.
Yeah, we do give courtesy, but in that very day, it was short notice for us when we were informed. It wasn't like we were given a week notice, and then I have other things that I'm doing. So that specific one, we didn't give him a heads up, and it was a press conference. It was happening. Everything happened in real time. It was like, hey, can you guys attend? Nene and I happened to be free on that day, and then we went. So it wasn't like pre-planned where we had enough time and notice to notify them.
Okay.
But because anything we've done for the party is in good faith, is to represent the party in good light. It's not to undermine anybody. But again, we went there specifically. I went there in my capacity as Saikou Sawo, not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Nene also went there. So we didn't just go there to say, hey, this is what PPP is standing for. Because it's a national issue. It affects everybody. This is how I viewed it. Because it's not a partisan issue. It affects everybody.
Okay. So how do you think these issues affecting the voter register would in turn affect voter confidence and even credibility of the electoral process?
Yeah, that's why we need IEC to do the needful. I think it's best they just release
the needful would be what?
Yeah. So
what does the IEC need to do, have to do?
So they need to release the full voters list.
Okay.
So we can see, because I believe it was supposed to be 212, but right now we're at 107. So we need to see the duplicates, because there's about 14,000 duplicates, and then we need to see, the 14,000, that UDP, also said has been omitted. So we need technical audit needs to happen by an independent body, so it shouldn't just be, hey, it's just UDP or GDC saying this, but we have an independent technical audit to go through these numbers. And I think it's just about transparency. Nobody's trying to say IEC hasn't done the needful. They've worked hard, Getting the voters registration was quick and easy. I went in there within 2 minutes, I was done. So it's just about transparency, so everybody can feel comfortable that their vote will count. That's all we're asking for. Yeah, that's it. It's more.
So the IEC has emphasized that it will deliver a free, fair, and transparent
yes. And that's why we want to hold them accountable. Yeah.
But you're saying until they do this, credibility will be an issue. Why is the IEC reluctant to do that then? Publish only what? Did you say 14,000 duplicates?
Yes, there was about 14,000 duplicates, 14 or 15,000.
Okay, so whatever the number, why are they reluctant to do that? What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a process, right, where, I believe UDP is saying they're going to file over 1,000 appeal.
With the revising courts?
Yes, exactly. So I think that's the due process that needs to follow. And the whole point of that press conference was to give enough time for people to gather enough data. Because I believe GDC also had people that wants to submit. So, because you see, they came back, the deadline was on the 24th, they extended it to the 27th, which is today. So that gives people enough time to gather enough data. So that way, when they go to the revising courts, we also go in there with, substantial evidence. And, obviously, the court will also say, hey, there's a huge discrepancy here. You guys need to, let's hold them accountable.
And how is the Golden Era Party contributing to the opposition's gathering of evidence, maybe, to bring before the revising court?
Yeah, we didn't. I'll be honest. Because obviously when PPP, when all this was going, maybe, unless Madike Fall or people within the party were, I wasn't aware of PPP, having the people on the ground. Again, I may not be aware, but I'm definitely not in loop there to say, hey, we've also identified 200, 300. So to me, that's why it was very important. The least I could do, I didn't do the heavy lifting or the legwork, but the least I could do is also amplify, like, hey, these people have done the work, let's amplify the message. And I did post it on my Facebook and Instagram. So that way, more people are aware, more people are putting pressure on the IEC. So those are the things I felt like, hey, we should be doing. We didn't do the heavy lifting, but at least we can also, show solidarity. It's like, I remember when they wanted to pass this media bill a few months ago, every journalist, they all stood in solidarity,
Yes,
and then the
yes.
whole thing just went down.
Something very rare.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
For once, the whole industry,
For the whole industry, yes.
sang from the same hymn sheet.
Exactly.
And of course, they heard the tune.
Yes, exactly.
And backtracked.
So this is the reason why Nene and I attended that conference. It wasn't to persuade or it wasn't to sway anybody in the proposed alliance, because people talk, but PPP itself, is a natural alliance of UDP. There are, like I said, more than 80-90% wants this to go.
What they do?
Yes.
Oh.
90%, like I said, 18 out of 20 voted in favor. Yeah, so there are people within the party that wants this to happen. So that's why I'm not understanding the delay. Unless there's another underlying issue, but be upfront to us about it. Be sincere. What is? Yeah, I just have my own.
So remind us again, what unique policies or initiatives does your GEP bring to the table for national development? Why should Gambians listen to Saikou Sawo? Why should they trust Saikou Sawo? Why should they forget about all the other parties and actually, vote for Saikou Sawo if he were to present himself as, a presidential candidate?
Yeah, this whole thing, it's not just about me, it's about Gambia. The reason why, even if you look at how we initiated this whole UDP thing, I put the country first, and then, like I said, even Keba Nanko, our policy director, is somebody I have a great relationship with, by the way. He's actually really smart. He's an intellectual. When I approached him, he was like, hey, I really like that approach. You're looking for country, not just yourself. And I didn't go to that, even when the agreement was drafted, he drafted it. There was no guarantees like, hey, I need to have certain position for me to accept this. No, it was about, the people of the party. So it's the same approach. We want affordability. The cost of living is high. It's not sustainable for Gambia. Even construction, everything is just a nightmare here. Lack of opportunities, our youth are struggling to stay in the country because there are no opportunities here. They have to go find greener pastures elsewhere. So these are some of the conversations that I want to be able to champion, within that coalition. And then since it's a party-led, we want to make sure UDP is also held accountable. And based on my conversation with UDP, I don't think they have any issue championing some of those, core issues like, mismanagement, corruption. Yeah, like I said, the ideology, we aligned on that. It's just the flag bearer and leadership thing. And I don't think, as serious opposition leaders, we shouldn't spend, this whole coalition talks, it's been going on since October last year. And now it's 4 months to the election. We just need to move on. That's why I had to hey, this is my stance on this. Because we can't just let one, few leaders just hijack the whole process. Let's move on from this topic and just, those that want to collaborate with each other, come forward. Those that have a different, mindset, it's okay. It's your prerogative to go set up, a thought force if you want to. Let's just move on. But let's do that with conviction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you think of, all these different efforts aimed at, uniting the opposition? We know now we have perhaps the strongest of them all being the CMC, the Coalition Monitoring Committee. But, you had Apex.
Still many.
Exactly. So what do you...
CSE.
What does it say about, opposition resolve to come together, to...
I don't think they're serious about coming together because this whole thing is still all about leadership. It has to be me or nobody else, me or nobody else. So... it's just people don't want to come out there and just say it, but that's the underlying issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's why, at some point we need people that are part of the process to just call it as is. Let's move away from this leadership thing so that way we can have a formidable coalition. Coalition also is just not about coming together. It's about bringing a value proposition to the table. What do you bring to the table? How do you ensure, we have a free and fair elections. Everybody should hold their positions within. So these are things we should be focusing on now, 4 months to the election. We don't have time.
And so, can you understand when the NPP, which itself is leading a coalition of sorts, says the opposition will never unite will never present, a united front against its candidate in December.
Yeah, they're right, because they know how the typical Gambians think. Those people in NPP, they're smart. They know. Because it's a lot of political games.
Again, in politics, everything is possible. Could they be fueling the divisions within the opposition?
I don't want to say that because I don't know for sure, but it's possible. There could be people there just to cause chaos. It's all, but I don't want to say that publicly because I don't know for sure.
Let's move on. What's your party's perspective, the GEP's perspective on some of the issues affecting the country now? This is not just about individual political parties. The border tensions, for instance,
security
between us and the Casamas end of our common frontier with Senegal.
Yeah, but if you look at Gambia today, look at the people protecting even our president. These are not Gambians; these are Senegalese.
Yeah, but they didn't trigger the.
But I'm saying, we have our own military.
Yes.
Any proud leader should have his own people doing that job. Are you saying for the past 10 years he could not reform the military to have our own people safeguard him? You have to empower your people if you really want them to be out there. You cannot outsource that to any country. It's been 10 years. I understand the first 3 years. He's just coming in. He's a novice. He's not like a career politician, but it's been 10 years now. At some point we just have to face the reality. And, and still now we need more economic forces to keep coming. Recently, Nigeria just made an announcement, they're going to bring in more people. It's like 10 years has gone by, and security is something we should take seriously. We need, indigenous Gambians, to be, I think that's something I'll commend Yajame for. I don't think Yajame will be comfortable to have. I have nothing against the Senegalese, but it's vice versa. When you go to Senegal, it's not Gambians that are in the State House or whatever they call. That's the highest
Palais.
Yeah, that's the highest office of the land. Yeah, so it's vice versa for Gambia. Why should Senegalese? So so that's the fundamental problem. Mm-hmm. So if we have President Barrow in this situation, I don't expect him to be able to, all these issues that are happening in Foni, Bullock area.
Yeah, but just because they are guarding our president doesn't mean that, they can send their soldiers to start knocking structures.
Yeah, but for me, it just shows how
supposedly belong to.
No, but for me, it shows that I don't think he takes security seriously.
So what would a Saikou Sawo have done in that position?
So here's what I don't understand, right? Because I also read this.
You're not understanding what Saikou Sawo would have done.
No.
It's what you don't understand.
No, what I don't understand is for them to bring down the fence, right? I think that's something that should have been communicated to, to our government first, even if it shouldn't just be a unilateral decision that they take. Because also there's a demarcation issue that is still lingering there, right? I just don't know if that has been sorted out.
It's not been sorted out.
Yes, exactly. So people are going
on the basis of that the Senegalese have made this move.
Yeah, so people are going to Google Maps. I was like, Google Maps is not going to give you the answer because we don't even, that's still lingering, as long as Gambia. So these are things we fail to do, and now it's coming back to haunt us. But still, there should have been a proper channel where Gambians are aware. And, the government is even coming and informing us, hey, by the way, this is what is about to happen. But I don't, it appears Senegal didn't give us that courtesy, which is what is concerning for most Gambians.
Are you happy with the way the government is going about the problem, trying to bring a resolution to it?
Yes, I think they won't come. They're trying to use the diplomatic approach. But once they exhaust that, they need to take a firm stance, because if this continues to happen, then our sovereignty is at stake. So I like the diplomatic approach first. Let's talk, let's have dialogue, let's understand, let's let them be able to come back to us and say, hey, there was a misunderstanding, but this is how we're going moving forward. But if those options fail, then we need to make sure, our sovereignty cannot be, it's a serious thing. People should feel comfortable here as Gambians in the Gambia. Because if we don't have that safety here, do we expect us to have that safety somewhere else? No. It begins at home.
When I asked about the border issue, you went straight to, security-related matters, security of the president and so on and so forth. How should government you know that recently we had a spate of homicide cases,
Yeah.
people being killed for this reason or that reason. How should government and society respond to this seemingly growing case of homicides?
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately, my condolences to the victims and their family. For me, I think it's just if you look at our judicial process, it takes too long, and then I don't think we're doing justice if we have this prolonged, delays with, investigation, going to court, getting people convicted. And I think that's why people are so fed up of the system. Because I've made several videos about it, where cases are still ongoing for years, and it's because we don't have a strong, when it comes to like forensic investigation and all this stuff, and then sometimes if the perpetrators have strong, lawyers, they may end up even just dismissing the case because, the judges are not also going to go by he say, she say, or eyewitnesses that are not strong enough, especially if we can't tie, the DNA or fingerprints, those issues. So I think we need to have we need to strengthen the posture of, homicide investigators, police. Maybe we should start having surveillance cameras in certain places also. So that way it's easy to come with concrete evidence and, victims can be convicted quickly without having to waste, taxpayers' money going back and forth. So
is it frustration with the judicial system that is leading to these killings? Or
No.
a bigger problem
it's multiple.
which society needs to tackle?
Yeah.
Of course, with the government leading.
Yeah. We need the government to lead. That's why we need to create opportunities where, with every society, there's always going to be good and bad. But, for the most part, let's create opportunities where the youth are not just idling. They don't have nothing better to do. Every little argument gets superheated in this country, and then it leads to stabbing and fatal killing. If we create more opportunities for the youth, I don't think most of them will be idling around doing nothing. So that also, there's a socio-economic issue there that is leading to, a lot of these cases. Because most of them spend all day idling, drinking attire, with no money in the pocket, they see their friends, so it's frustrating.
A lot of people would say, we don't know what might have been without attire. At least it pins them, to one place where you can see them, where you can go to them. If attire was not here, we don't know what kind of Gambia, we might have in our hands. We have 5 minutes to the end of this conversation. Time flies when you're having a good time. Huh?
Yeah.
What are your views on other recent developments? The Auditor General's case, for instance, where,
Yeah, I feel like he should have been reinstated instead of just, I don't know if that's a compensation package.
But it can only be described as that because he can't get the job back.
Yeah, but why not?
They've said that because the guy who was appointed also, it would mean that he would be removed, unjustifiably.
But then I feel like the Auditor General was wrongfully, they just hijacked him from there, basically.
Well, the Supreme Court, judgment would seem to, concur with that. Because if you're saying you pay him up to his statutory retirement, it means
But
that...
it's the taxpayers that are paying him. We want him to... I'm happy they compensated him, but he's ready to do the work. He didn't resign. He should have been reinstated,
And what do you do with the one that is there now? The substantive?
Yeah, I think he can be transitioned into something else. And then, because he didn't resign.
Well, they tried transitioning the old one and it didn't work. So why do you think it would work with the current one?
No, but doing the needful is reinstating. So this other guy that is there, I don't know. It's complicated.
Well, it's one of those things it's sorted now. If it wasn't, if we hadn't had a judgment and you became the next president, that would have been one of the things you'd have to deal with.
But I would.
Certain things are happening now.
Yes.
You in the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
You want to become president. Once you become president, you inherit those problems.
Yeah.
You can't bring Adam Barrow back and say, hey, fix this before. Otherwise, Yahya Jammeh would still be here fixing things.
And fixing it would be reinstating the guy. He hasn't violated anything that I'm aware of. I read the case. That's why I keep saying he should be reinstated. He still wants to work. He didn't willfully resign. He was kind of like forcefully removed. Yes, I get it, somebody else is there, but that person shouldn't have been there in the first place. So there's a pretext to all this chaos. Okay. So the people that created the chaos should have done the needful by getting the incumbent person there, put him in, maybe he could be the deputy, they can work together.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm boss today, and the next day they tell me, oh no, before you were boss, the boss that was there is coming back to take back the bossship.
Yeah, or they could, I don't know where he came from. Let him go back to where he came from.
I think they brought him from internal audit. Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, you spoke about the slow judicial process that leads us to the appointment of the current Chief Justice's successor. It's caused a lot of ED file.
Yes,
apparently has been tapped, and it's caused a lot of concern, even from the Gambia Bar Association, the Association of Lawyers, if you like.
Yes,
what do you think? What do you make of the conversation?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of competent people in the Gambia Bar Association they could have picked from.
So you support seeking a successor within the Gambia, locally here?
Yes. Yeah, I think that would have been fair, instead of...
Yeah, but you talk about the slow court process, and a lot of people feel that if ED comes in, given that for him it's everything is. He works with digitized court system and all of that. He would help upgrade our court system, and then all this backlog of cases probably because I hear that sometimes they can't even find courts to hold hearings in.
Yes.
That's a major issue.
I'm not trying to take anything from Fal, but we're in the digital era, right? There are people that also have the same point of view, within the Gambia Bar Association that could champion that. So that's why we need to make sure when let's have a performance-based governance, where people can see the outcome. There should be certain criteria. It's like, hey, these are the objectives and these are the key results we need, like digitization, expediting the judicial process. So once we set those criteria, it doesn't matter whether you're coming from the U.S., which is great because you know how things operate, with efficiency. But once we set that criteria, there are people on the ground here also that have that, they're competent enough to be able to execute those objective and key results. So we'll still end up with the same results.
Okay, yeah. Absolutely. Listen, and if you were to be asked, what's the single biggest challenge facing the Gambia, how would you answer that question?
The opposition leaders, they are the hindrance. They are the hindrance. Yes, they are the hindrance. Because we have to learn how to compromise. We only need one flag bearer president at a time. But if our ideology is the same, we'll all end up winning anyways. It's going to be a win-win. Because I'm in for youth and women empowerment. That's the whole reason why I joined, because the youth are struggling, there's lack of opportunities, and I know people that are way smarter than me, but they're not able to reach their full capacity. So at some point, we have to keep our ambitions aside, work with people that we know, hey, when we come together, we're going to be a formidable force. But if the leaders can't see that, so that means what they're championing is not truly from their heart. They're not serious about the whole, putting Gambia first. It's just something they're saying. Because, that's the issue we're facing, and that's why, like you said earlier, MPP knows, these leaders are not going to come together because everybody wants to lead. If you are capable, you're competent, we know, hey, Uncle Peter is going to do a great job, I'll rally behind you. It doesn't matter. Even if you join our coalition forces today and we all nominated you, I'll rally behind you. We go.
Fantastic. Yeah. Final message?
So yes, we're appealing to these same leaders that have been, causing these impediments and this long talk, to do the needful. Let's put our egos aside. Let's do this for Gambia. This is bigger than us. Because 2026, if we end up not winning, people should blame these leaders that failed to compromise.
Saikou, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Saikou Sawo, leader of the Golden Era Party, GEP, our guest today. Tomorrow we have the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, and we want it to be as long a conversation, as long a sit-down as possible. And you, I'm depending on you, the listeners, those of you watching us on YouTube now, send us as many questions on the state of the country's finances and the economy in general. There is no question we cannot put to the minister. That's why we put a flyer out inviting people to send their questions in advance. He actually is subjecting himself to national scrutiny. So those of you who are out there in the diaspora, send us your questions for Honorable C.D. Keita in advance. He will be on from 8:30. He could be here till 12 o'clock tomorrow. 3.5 hours of C.D. Keita and you. What can you not ask in 3.5 hours? Nothing, absolutely. So start sending your messages to us. We are on WhatsApp. We are on SMS. The number is 7711599. If you're messaging from outside, +220, of course, the country code. So I look forward to as many questions as possible. If I have my way, I wouldn't ask CD a single question. All the questions would come from you because you pay him. We pay him. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow.
If you're an entrepreneur and your business is not yet registered, if you're looking to grow your registered business, or you're an accomplished professional, our Elevate program supports you with access to finance, access to markets, access to capacity building. Sign up now or refer a friend at ecobank.com/elevate. Elevate by EcoBank. A better way, a better Africa.
Vive la fe. Sant yàlla. looy xaar utal Wave nga scan nga fay te nag doo ci yokku dara.
Jar Oil, the company, have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.